Hi, everybody. This is Doug again. I wanted to follow up on our two episodes we just released a few minutes ago about Constantine and his relocating Delphi to Constantinople. And I want to give you some more background on that, and that there's actually other people who've noticed this, and it wasn't just the serpent's column that you can still see today, but the other Delphic objects, the tripod and everything. So the whole enterprise was now operating at Constantinople, obviously. So anyway, just this article was published at Istanbul.com. It's called Constantine the Great and Delphi, and he just mentions here he was also known as Constantine the First or Saint Constantine. Oh, I can't believe that people call him a saint, the emperor who founded Constantinople in 330 BC. Well, actually, that's not correct. He founded it in 324, and so I don't know why they didn't get that correct. Maybe there was an official founding that was going on, but clearly the pagan priests came in 324, and there was an inauguration ceremony at that time. So this is somewhat inaccurate, but he has a lot of other interesting things. And then it points out that he removed the 8-meter tall bronze column that supported an urn. This is some things back in Delphi, which was donated to Apollo by the Greeks. So this was a thing that the Greeks were offering to Apollo as some sort of thank you. The Greeks had fought the Persians successfully in the battle of the plateau in 479 BC. So this was an emblem. This particular serpent object that we saw uh, is well known or connected with that battle as a battle emblem or an object that shows were victorious. So I want to make sure we understand there was other Delphic objects that were brought there, and that's going to be mentioned in I think it's in this article, and then another one. Okay, let's keep going here. And the article had a lot of interesting background, and then you find out that the Temple of Delphi has a lot to do with the actual founding of this city. So wait till you hear about that. So this was not a mistake that Constantine had to pick out one city to move to, and he picks the one city that actually you're going to see was founded at the direction of the Delphic Oracle. Remember, I told you people would ask the Delphic Oracle, what should we do? Where should we move to? What country should we invade? And this one was, where should we live? And the Delphic Oracle gave it to the Megarian people to go to the city that's known as, was initially they named Byzantium, and then later became known as Constantinople. So let's see here. In the 7th century BC is the title. The Megarians, following the advice of the Delphic Oracle, founded a city by the name of Byzantium in Serai-Burnu. The Megarians were the first historical people to settle in the area of present-day Istanbul. In the 680s BCE, before the Christian era, they migrated from Greece, passed through the Marmara Sea, and founded the city of Chalcedon in the place of the current neighborhood of Kadikoi on the Asian side. The first inhabitants of Chalcedon were agriculturalists and bear the dubious honor of being known as the nation of the blind. I just want to make sure that we understand when it said Asian side, it doesn't mean we're in Asia or China somehow. This is Turkey. And in that era, Turkey was actually known as Asia Minor because from the West, if you lived in Rome, this was east, right? So you go east, and that was as far as east as Rome really knew was east. So Asia Minor was Turkey, and then Asia Major would have to be something like in Jerusalem and so on. Anyway, I just thought I'd make that point. The first inhabitants of Chalcedon were agriculturists and bear the dubious honor of being known as the nation of the blind. In the 660s, before the Christian era, another group of Megarians founded a city at the present-day location of Serai-Burnu. According to legend, these Megarians visited the oracle at the Temple of Delphi before setting out by sea to establish a city. The oracle advised them to settle, quote, directly opposite the nation of the blind. When they reached the present-day site of Serai-Burnu, the Megarian colonists were impressed by its height and by the fact that it was naturally protected on three sides by the sea. After they noticed Chalcedon directly across the Bosphorus from Serai-Burnu, they thought to themselves, anyone who could establish a city in view of such a perfect site must indeed be blind. So they figured they found the city of the blind that the oracle had talked about. So this whole city was founded based on the Oracle of Delphi giving instructions of where they should go. And so again, this is typical of what Constantine is going to want to rely upon. Okay, so that we've already covered that. The Byzantine period. The Megarians decided that the oracle's vague advice must have referred to Istanbul, Sereburnu, and established the first settlement in their city. They gave the name Byzantium to the city after one of their captains, Bizas. Um, in this way, the roots of Istanbul were set during the 7th century before the Christian era. So that would be, this is what we're all talking about lately. How do you do it? 7th doesn't mean the 700s, it means the 600s. So in the 600s BCE, known as the beginning of the Byzantine period by Megarian colonists from Greece. So it was founded by Greeks, and that's why it was Greek speaking, and why when Constantine opened up a new shop in Constantinople, he was naming the god of the sun there as Apollo, and so he wasn't trying to use Psalm Victus with the local people. Okay. So after triumphing in the Macedonian Wars in 146 before the Christian era, the Romans took control of the Balkans and Asia Minor. There's that word Asia. Of course, Byzantium too became part of the Roman Empire. In 330 Christian era, the Roman Emperor Constantine I, meaning the bad guy we're talking about, proclaimed Byzantium the new capital of the empire. So that's interesting. He moves there in 324. He establishes it as the capital, but he doesn't declare Byzantium the new capital of the entire empire right away, apparently. That's what this is saying. So there must have been some formal decision or law passed that made this the new capital, and Rome no longer would be the capital. And he began to renovate the city. The city was rechristened as Constantinople. Well, that clearly happened much earlier. So this is a little bit awkward here that he doesn't seem to know that. But anyway, and from that day forward became, I think he's confusing the day it became the Roman Empire with the day it was founded. It was founded years prior. Okay. The city was rechristened as Constantinople, and from that day forward became one of the most important locations in the Christian world. The Roman Empire was officially split into two parts, the East and West. Okay. Yeah, so that's the same thing. You know what? I'm going to stop it here. Okay, so we'll continue. So then it says here, this is just some history for our background. So now they officially became East and West in 395, the Christian era. In 476, Christian era, the Ostrogoths removed the Western Roman Emperor Romulus Augustus from the throne and thereby returned the entire empire to Zeno, the Eastern Roman Emperor. This transfer of power marked the downfall of the Western Roman Empire and Constantinople's establishment as the single imperial capital. Thereafter, Constantinople became a uniquely Eastern Orthodox city. So basically, from 476 onward, you ended up having it becoming gravitating towards the East and no longer a Roman Catholic type country, but now an Eastern Orthodox country. And that's how it permanently became separated in that fashion. All right, so that's that to that point. Now we're going to look at the Delphic Oracle again. So this object here is what is a recreation by artists of what it originally looked like. There was a tripod of serpents at the top. Now, something like this would be exactly what the Python priestess would sit on, and it would be underneath her, and it could go underground. But she would sit on this. This looks uncomfortable, but that's what she would sit on and do her prophecies. And so this could be, but this was supposed to be, in this instance, was supposed to be completely above ground as a relic of the Greeks having won the Persian War at one time in the 400s. But there was more than this that was taken from Delphi to Constantinople by Constantine. We'll see. So here is what another one of these pillars looks like. It's apparently, well, actually, it says right there, the replica of the serpent column at Delphi. So I guess somebody decided, what, let's put the replica here, and I guess it got similarly destroyed at the top. Someone took the serpents off the top there. But this is what it looks like still back in Delphi. Okay, so now we're going to take a look at this article called "The Serpent Column" in the web page or website called the web page, and the article is called The Byzantine Legacy. And this has a lot of more interesting information. The website address is there in the bottom right in yellow with red lettering. Okay, and I'm going to want to read this article. So this article is at the Byzantine Legacy. The article name is the Byzantine. No, actually, that's the name of the website, the Byzantine Legacy, and then the article is Serpent Column. And you can find it at the website thebyzantinelegacy.com, serpent-column. And that's a picture there of a replica of the serpent column at Delphi. And I'm going to read 3 slides, and I'll make comments as I go along. The serpent column is also linked with a specific military victory. While it lost its golden tripod centuries earlier, we're talking about the golden tripod is this 3 serpents. And that was a same thing that the Python priestess would sit on, something exactly like that. It doesn't look very comfortable, but that's how it worked. And okay. While it lost the golden tripod centuries earlier on the top there, the remaining column continued to be associated with the victory over the Persians. So that's the purpose of that column. It was a memorial to the victory of the Greeks over the Persians, thanking the Python priestess, giving her this serpent column in honor of their victory. And it had certain writings on it that signified the names of the victors on their side, on the Greek side. It is unclear how much of its original meaning was remembered once it was moved to Constantinople. Well, of course, we don't know. It seems that Constantine claimed to be the heir of the civilization that defeated the Persians when he moved it to the Spina. Yeah, so what's the purpose of bringing a national treasure of the Greek people that symbolized their victory over Persia, a big war, I think 467 BC, and he takes it there to Constantinople? What's he doing? Is he moving the center of gravity from Greece and the pagan religion to Constantinople? Seems very much so, because this serpent column is connected to the Delphic oracle, and so this was thanks given to her. So why would you take something given to the Delphic oracle if she still has some sort of existence in Greece? Well, you're going to find out she doesn't exist there anymore, and due to Constantine's own orders in 303 AD, as we'll get to. Okay, so he claims to be. So what the author of this piece is saying is that Constantine appears to be claiming he's the heir of the civilization that defeated the Persians. And next he's going to say, however, it is also possible that its connection to the sun god Apollo, who defeated the serpent Python, banishing chaos and inaugurating an age of peace and fertility, was not forgotten. So because the secondary person involved in the serpent's Delphic oracle is the master of the Delphic oracle. The master of the Python priestess is the one who had defeated the Python when she was, in this evil, unsubmissive form of just being a serpent. He has to kill the Python, and when he kills the Python, she resurrects in this nicer, more submissive Python that would do his bidding and would be his prophetess. So that's why would you bring in the serpent Python tripod, and why would you bring all of these things and objects from Delphi? Well, because Constantine believes he's Sol Invictus, and we've shown you the prior video. He believes he's Sol Invictus. He believes he's the Greek name of Sol Invictus, which is Apollo. So he's now bringing these relics and objects that are associated with the Python priestess, which is the most direct evidence or part of the religion of the god of the sun, either under his name in Greek, Apollo, or under his Roman name, Sol Invictus. Okay, next. Now, even after his conversion to Christianity, Constantine continued to use the imagery of the sun god. Now, I don't know how anybody can talk this way about him having a conversion at the same moment they're acknowledging that he kept using the imagery of the sun god. So you have to do something which is think outside the box. It's like, you're told he had a conversion, but you don't know he had a conversion. And we're going to show you he didn't have a conversion in a second here. Anyway, he continued to use the imagery of the sun god. Thus, this linked his own victory over his defeated enemies of Maxentius and Licinius with Apollo's victory over Python. So what he's correctly saying is that the very same way he could see that the sun god had given victory to the Greeks over the Persians, this symbol, the serpent's column, also was a sign of the victory of his own victory over Maxentius and Licinius, which he also thanked Apollo for. So see, there's multiple meanings when where this kind of emblem would be given in thanks to the sun god for your victory. And what Constantine did in personally is he built the Arch of Constantine. And so who he thanked on the Arch of Constantine was only the god of the sun primarily. And he also had a couple of other gods, the winged victory, the winged Venus of victory, and so on. But the one god he did not thank on the Arch of Constantine was Jesus or Yahweh. They're invisible. There's no reference to them, but there's all these other pagan gods. But the primary thanks was given to Sol Invictus or Apollo. And a couple of other things we need to know is at that time, there was no report that Constantine ever had a conversion involving Christianity. And now we know in 312, when this supposedly happened just before the Battle of Milvian Bridge, the actual vision or whatever that he had was of Apollo in a field. He went out into a field, a green grassy area, and he claimed, and it was put in a book by his second in command as military officer for Constantine, that what really happened that day was Apollo appeared to him, and Apollo said, "You will have victory." And that was written contemporaneous and long before, more than a decade before we ever heard any news that Constantine claimed Jesus had appeared to him in the sky and gave him a sign under which he would have victory. So it makes perfect sense when you see the Milvian Bridge battle being depicted on the Arch of Constantine. You don't see any thanks at all for Jesus Christ or Yahweh. You see only thanks to Apollo, which is what this book of his lieutenant actually had already circulated and should have been well known. Of course, Constantine can control all news so that we don't even hear Christians even balking at the claim that he's a Christian and don't say, "Hey, well, what about this book that you claimed it was Apollo who gave you the victory? Get out of here, go away, blah blah blah." So we don't hear the truth. We just hear one side of it. One side's talking and the other side is choking and can't speak and is not allowed to dissent on anything because it's more important. But here's what's interesting. It is more plausible that Constantine saw it as a trophy after closing the oracle at Delphi. So now what this person is trying to say is, well, he closed Delphi in 303 AD, and he's saying this is his victory over the Delphic oracle himself. No. I don't think this guy's pieced it all together. He's not putting it together with the Apollo pillar where Constantine's face is in the pillar and Constantine is saying, "I am Sol Invictus," or Sol Invictus Apollo is me, or or they're in me, whatever. So he hasn't put two and two together. Now, what's he saying? Let's listen to his whole sentence. It is more plausible that Constantine saw it as a trophy after closing the Oracle of Delphi due to its role in convincing Diocletian to persecute Christians starting in 303 AD. So what happened is in 303 AD, Diocletian, the emperor, was interfering with Constantine, who was a commander, by going after and persecuting army men who were Christians in his troop. This was disruptive and created division within his own forces. Hard to go to war when you've got a lot of Christians in your group. They want to battle. They want to go to battle, but your emperor is persecuting them based on their Christian faith. That's not good for business. Not as a wannabe emperor, which Constantine wanted to be emperor, but he was not at the time. But he had an order that he could take it out on the person who was this alleged. It was alleged at the time that Constantine did this because the Delphic oracle had been the one who told Diocletian that the Diocletian, the emperor, should go after the Christians and go after them in the army and purge them out. So that's what Diocletian does. He obeys the Delphic oracle, and Constantine, in retaliation, and he's not had his Apollo vision yet, right? That isn't going to happen until 312 AD. And so he goes and he, basically fights against this in his own troop. And when he gets a chance, now he's a co-emperor himself in 312 AD, and Maxentius is his rival emperor, right? They're both under Roman law. You would have two co-councils, and there was no emperor. You were supposed to share power. And he didn't want to share power, so he wants to kill Maxentius, so he has sole dictatorial power, and supposedly Jesus is going to help him get there, and that's what he wants Christians to believe later. But contemporaneously, Constantine was only saying Apollo did this for him, and because he'd previously abused Apollo's high priestess, the Python priestess, somewhere along the line, Constantine must have realized he's got to undo what he did back there in Greece. But when's he going to get a chance to get out of Rome and go take care of and fix what he did in 303 AD and resurrect her business and put her back in business? Well, we know that she's back in business, not anytime while she's still in Greece, but sometime that coincides when he starts up back in Constantinople and actually takes all the relics of her original Delphic oracle serpent tripods, and we're going to see they also come back, not just this serpent column. And so we know by 381 or 393 she's been back in operation, but people don't ask, where was she in operation? She had been closed down in 303 AD. And then all of her Delphic oracle objects were all taken to Constantinople in 324. So where is she? She's in Constantinople. And so when the emperor of Rome at that time, emperor of the Byzantium Empire, he orders the cessation of the Delphic oracle, he meant not in Delphi, but in the Delphic oracle had now been moved to Constantinople. So he was putting an end to her, trying to. So in 390, I think it's 393, 394, he tries to issue an order to stop any more of the oracle of the Python priestess. And so, it's obvious that she had been brought back to life, if you will, by Constantine's efforts. And that's why he's bringing all these objects back. So let's take a look at that. He's going to talk about the other objects coming back in the next clip here. As Delphi had been regarded as the center of the world, it is possible that Constantine was claiming this status for his new capital when he moved the serpent column and other Delphic tripods to the Hippodrome. Okay, so now I want to explain a couple more things. First of all, you can see he's on board. He can see the big picture that other Christians are not seeing, that this is in 324, he's doing an inauguration of the city of Constantinople. He brings in all the pagan priests. He brought in the serpent's column. Everybody knows it was in 324, but he also brought in the Delphic tripods. That's what she would sit on, to the Hippodrome. Now, why would he bring it to the Hippodrome? So I want you to physically imagine the Apollo pillar with his face on it is only 8-minute walk away from the serpent column, which is that memorial to the battle of the Persians being defeated by the Greeks. And then where are the Delphic tripods where she's doing her Delphic stuff? It has to be somewhere in between or at the Hippodrome. Now, why would he situate it at the Hippodrome? That's where you have chariot races, right? That has nothing to do with Apollo. Oh, it has everything to do with Apollo. So one other thing we haven't really gone and shown you very much yet, but every time Apollo is shown in an image, and we showed you actually Jesus is depicted as Apollo with a ray solar crown in the under St. Peter's Basilica, I think it is, or the Vatican, where he's controlling a chariot of horses. Well, that's how the god of the sun was depicted in Roman and Greek art, Apollo or Sol Invictus. And at the Arch of Constantine, which is the dedication of a thank you card to Apollo / Sol Invictus, on the very top surface, with flat surface at the very top, we have artist depictions of what was there originally, and it was Sol Invictus standing inside of a chariot with 6 or 7 golden horses at the top, and apparently it was made of all gold, so everybody could see it all over the city. It was like glistening. and it was pointed in the direction of the sun, so he was taking off towards the sun, and that's why he would bring all of the Delphi tripods, the Delphic, serpent column, and even put up the Apollo, pillar within 8 minutes of walking to the Hippodrome, because this is the center of, Apollo's power and influence, which is these activities were considered in his honor, and he would be, spiritually present at chariot races. That's what he was known for. And just so you know, when it was came time to Christmas and the celebration of Christmas, that was really in Rome, the Saturnalia, where they would also celebrate the birth of Sol Invictus, the rebirth of Sol Invictus every year, because at a certain time of year the winter comes to an end and you start getting the sun more and more every day. Well, that's December 25th, just so you know, and that's what they were celebrating. And what would they do? They would do 25 chariot races to celebrate Sol Invictus, because what is Sol Invictus? He's Apollo, and Apollo is known for riding horses. And what's very interesting, and those who like the Bible should like this, is that the god of the sun was known as Baal in the Bible, and he was depicted in one of the passages. It says he was depicted on a wall or something, in control of a chariot of horses, a chariot, bridled with horses. So you see, this imagery goes all the way back to Baal, and so there it is. It's still there. It's December 25th. It's also there now again in this Hippodrome, and now the Delphic Oracle, and now the Apollo Pillar are all brought together in one place, where he's creating a new center. And just as it said, that Delphi had once been regarded now as the center of the world, but Constantine, had disabled it in 303 AD. 30 What year was that? 303 AD, when he ordered it closed because it was upsetting his military about this, telling Diocletian, the emperor, to disrupt the Christian men in his troop from being he didn't want them persecuted, and the Delphic Oracle was to blame. Now he's going to take control of the Delphic Oracle, put her in his city, and resurrect her. And now he's resurrecting the Apollo religion that had existed for centuries and centuries at Delphi, and now it's going to be there at Constantinople. And what are the Christians supposed to do? They're going to tell the whole world the truth. Our emperor thinks that he's Apollo, that he thinks he's God, that he's claiming himself to be more powerful than his own father god Horus. Because that's really the other thing you need to know. In their religion of Sol Invictus Apollo was more powerful than Zeus, just so you know how it works. So if you hadn't noticed, did you ever notice that Jesus is more important than God Yahweh? That we treat him as more important than God the Father? I mean, that's the truth about Christianity. I mean, Jesus is faded in the excuse me, God, that Yahweh fades in the background. He's just called Lord, and you don't even use his name, and he's just a forgotten God. But that's the one we focus on. Well, that's exactly how Sol Invictus's religion worked. Apollo is more important than Zeus. You'll find much more attention paid to Apollo and Sol Invictus than you will ever find paid attention to the Father God. Okay, so I'm going to just take a break here, and we'll come right back. Okay, everybody, that actually concludes the episode. So I hope this was edifying and helpful to understand the importance of the moved to Constantinople at 324 AD, with all these objects from Delphi, the serpent column, all the other Delphic tripods. This was all to set up the worship of Apollo. This was the priestess who served Apollo. She was called the Python, and Apollo in the mythology of mythology of Greece, had defeated the Python and then resurrected her to be his servant, and prophetess. And so this was all being recreated and making Constantinople the new center of the world, the new center of pagan world and belief. And how the Christians could be kept quiet and not tell the world what's really going on is a whole mystery story in and of itself, but obviously not that mysterious. This guy had the power to kill, the power to take your life, power to banish you. That's what he did to the 5 of the people who showed up at Nicaea. This is really the first time they got to know him, was at Nicaea. They really didn't know him. They had a little party ahead of time, but that was it. But other than that, they didn't really know who he was. And then what's the first thing he does? If you don't go along with this, I'm going to banish you outside of the kingdom. And you know what that means? It's a death sentence. This guy's not being a nice guy. And 5 guys get exiled who wouldn't go along with his conclusion that Jesus and the Father are the same substance and they're equal. And Jesus is begotten, not made. Have a contradiction in terms, but yet you must accept it because I'm Constantine. I'm the emperor. I've told you what to believe. I'm Pontifex Maximus, and by law, I'm in charge of all religions. So that's really what happened. So this history about Constantinople and the Delphic oracle and all these things are material to understanding how clear the evidence is that this man was not a Christian, was a pagan, and was trying to draw us into his religion and not us allowing him to draw him into our religion. All right. God bless. Take care. Ciao. Bye.